Hello and welcome to a special episode of the MFL Ramble, the Metaverse Football League. We are here, it's cup final day. I had a fantastic day winning 4 out of 4 cups. Fortunately, most of them were a couple of them were a bit lower down, so it's not that much extra cash, but it all helps and it will make for a nice juicy reward episode later in the week. But I thought it is the end of the season. We've got one game day left. The season isn't only decided, like the experimental engine is in full swing. We haven't had this particular one of these guests on this season at all, and he's fair to say he's not been a happy chappy, which I'm sure we will get when he gives his view on the engine. But we'll also be talking about some tactics. We'll also be talking some positive stuff, hopefully. But I think it's fair that everybody's entitled. Everybody gives their view across on what's happened with the engine this season. And it's fair to say as well, if you look at the mid-season report, that Diamond probably has been impacted more than any other league, with a sort of inordinate amount of red and yellow cards. And as Bob said just before we start recording, the yellow cards are equally as important as the red cards because they cause suspensions for the next match. And I know from a personal point of view, I build I build teams and always backfill them with a load of common cards, thinking I probably won't need to use them, or the odd uncommon card in like silver and stuff like that. And I've had to use them way more this season than I would have liked. And it's definitely cost me some points with that, having to do that as well. In Diamond, obviously, the players are extremely expensive, so you can't build out 25-man teams, just with the hope that you might need to play one guy once a season. But anyway, before we move on, let's welcome the guests. We've got Kev Hurd in there. He is busy in Travel Lodge, did you say?
Premier Inn.
Premier Inn, sorry, yeah.
Hotel, yeah.
Nice.
Away with work, so yeah, but glad we've managed to get this one crammed in.
Nice.
So,
and you're a busy boy this week, aren't you? And hopefully we'll have you on later in the week for a reward pack opening on.
Yeah, I'd love to be available on Thursday for the reward stream, but it'll be Friday at the earliest for me.
Yeah.
We'll see so there might be a delay. Let's see.
Yeah. And we're joined by a man who has been on this season, one of the watch-alongs, I believe, that he popped on. And that is Sid. How are you, sir?
Was doing really good up until an hour back. Guess can't complain though. That was a rough Titans final. Shout out and GG's to Big Will. Great win. At least like Jimbo mentioned on the stream, it wasn't a snooze fest of a final. Finished 4-3. Just wish it was in my favor though. Other than that, life's all good.
It's been a pretty good. I mean, if we look at the end of the season, a Titans Cup runner-up, and if you get the runner-up in the league, then that's been your best season so far. I know, like, silverware is what counts, but you must be happy with it to a degree.
Yeah, from purely an MFL return perspective, this has easily been my best season. I think I'm close to doubling the MFL that I earned last season or in season 9, I guess, which was my best up until now. So, yeah, absolutely. No complaints there.
And you got plenty of pack equity for doing some deals in between the seasons.
Yes, more than half of it has been already traded off. I'll put it that
way. I love that.
What for a 96 rated right wing, left wing?
I mean, you don't get better than that.
Incredible
play wingers.
I didn't want to bring it up, Kev, because it's Bob's ex-player, but but yes, there was a trade deal done with Greninja for a 96 winger who can play on both flanks. So
beautiful.
Part of the plan to get my wingers replaced over the next 3-4 seasons, because I'm expecting Fortunato to pull the retirement sign when the rollover happens.
Keep your fingers crossed. And the final guest we've got is a man that everybody loves to see. He's not been a happy chappy this season, and he's not particularly wanted to come and do some content. But, I think it's fair that we give everyone a platform to speak their mind. And he has kindly offered to join us, and that is Bob. How are you, sir?
Doing well, man. Doing well. No worries, no concerns at all. Life is good.
Yeah. I didn't know whether we'd be starting on time. In fact, we didn't start on time because the the rant had already started, and it was a fair rant. You've got to agree with some of the points, but let's talk about, like, we did an episode about the engine, based around the mid-season reports, probably a couple of weeks ago. I lose track of time, and I guess the data that was chucked out in it sort of, showed some sort of glaring sort of like abnormalities. One, MFL wanted to increase the number of yellow cards that were handed out in a season. Okay, that's fair enough. They overshot it, and by overshooting it, it caused massive problems, in terms of suspensions, in terms of, lack of playing time for players. And I think that fundamentally is one of the biggest issues that a lot of people have, because the engine itself, in terms of gameplay, I've said it many times, I'm quite happy with the engine. It worked okay. Yes, there was defensive, blunders now and again, but in terms of passing, lots of things, it was way better. And the experimental engine is a step up again. But the yellow cards and the red cards is just crushing when you put a lot of money into a game. And I completely understand the frustration of some managers. Kev, what's your thoughts on it? You've been hit with red cards in certain games that you probably could have won, and they sort of come at the wrong time. How's everything been for you?
Yeah, I think I said it in a chat with Bob and Sid earlier. It's mainly diamond. It's all my bad variants, all my bad luck. Everything that could have went against me has happened in that one league. Whereas with other 7 teams, yeah, I've had red cards, but it's been when I've been 5-1 up in the 90th minute. It's irrelevant, inconsequential sort of stuff. And with those other 7 teams, I'm going to either win the league or finish in the top 3 of that league. So it's been a really good, successful season. Tactically, seems okay. A lot of good luck and variance went my way in the other leagues. It's just diamond, everything seems to have went against me, unfortunately.
What about you, Sid?
Yeah, I mean, from a red card perspective, I think I had 2 overall, one in Titans and one in the league. The one red card in the league didn't impact the result. The one in Titans definitely did. I think the red card happened around 75th minute, and I conceded like 5-10 minutes later. But overall, I mean, looking at the stats, the increase in bookings overall is definitely concerning. Right, so 26 red cards in 126 games. Again, I just took Premier League as a ballpark for comparison. So Premier League this season has had 29 red cards in 250 games, right? And in Diamond alone, we've got 26 reds, which is just 3 less in half the number of games, 126 games. So from a volume perspective, that's a lot. And the other point you guys touched upon is the likelihood of the second yellow card for a player who's already been booked, right? So that I don't think, at least from a data perspective, it doesn't seem like there is a lower likelihood that a player will get a second yellow. It seems as frequent as a first yellow card, and that definitely affected probably the frequency of the overall reds. But yeah, things need to be addressed for sure. And I know the mid-season report put out a report stating that the overall bookings per game has gone up significantly. They're going to tone it down and so on. But yeah, a little bit more transparency in terms of the positions that were being targeted that was published in mid-season. If we had known that as part of the engine rollout, that might have been helpful in terms of adjusting the aggressiveness and the finer details of the tactics and so on.
It's funny you say that, because I would say that the only criticism I personally would have the team, I get they wanted to increase the number of yellow cards, and I haven't got a problem with that, but they really should have announced that at the start of the season, because, people would have then built out bigger squads. They would have prepared for it. Without that sort of preparation, and you sort of run friendlies before the season starts. I did it, and I was doing some one afternoon, I was speaking to Kev while I was doing them, and my left back kept on getting a red card. And I said, but sometimes we see that in like friendlies, but it doesn't follow on to the actual match engine and match days, because you're running a high volume of, and, for whatever reason, we realized day one that it was going to be an issue. But Bob, what are your thoughts on sort of the red cards and yellow cards?
I mean, they were too high, just in general. And a big part of my issue with the red cards is that there seemed to be a fundamental lack of understanding that when you increase yellow cards, you will lead to more red cards in game, because as it turns out, whatever they have programmed in there really hurts the wide mids and your fullbacks and your wingers. So there was an active decision, it feels like at least, to force things narrow this season. And part of doing that is forcing yellow cards and red cards on all of those winger plays and reducing their value and usage. And that's one of my big issues. So it's one of the reasons, other than the fact that he has by far the best team in the game, that Ronan was so dominant. Someone that plays narrow, that always plays through the middle, that has the ability to go back and forth, and can only really be beaten well on the outside. It doesn't really matter when you are directly punishing all of those positions, and you can actually see it in the data. Right backs, right mids were the kings of the cards this season. I mean,
and for me, left wingers and right wingers as well, but it was anybody out on the right. And you're right. Yeah, I didn't think that at all. But
so the problem is when you do this and you artificially nerf 3 different positions, I mean, 3 different areas of the field, and you focus up the middle, you've completely bombed everything out in the engine. And it doesn't matter how diverse the goals are. When you've artificially lowered the value of all of those other players, then what is the point? And they even said one of the things that they were upset about in the midseason report is that CDMs and CBs weren't getting enough cards. And so what that means is they messed up their coding so badly that they didn't hit the guys that they wanted to target with more cards. They hit everybody else, and they forced everything narrow, which gave certain formations a lot more joy. So that's like guys, I have to understand how football works before I make really bad decisions. And then changing everything late compounds the really bad decisions that are made.
What do you mean by changing, like the patches they did? I think the major change was when the engine went final on the Friday night. They did make patches after that, but I don't think they fundamentally made too many.
They did. I mean, they absolutely did. They got a lot of feedback, and they even said in conversations I've had with them, they've said that they made changes to the engine and they weren't pleased with it, but they have to make these changes to go live. And so that becomes a problem, David. That becomes an untested, unreliable product. And the reason that I'm so upset about it is I had a lot of fun at every other lower division. It works great for 99.9% of the game playing population. But that very top percent of the game playing population can see these errors very clearly when you're playing in there. And it's frustrating as you go through, because my team was fantastic last season. Fantastic. And I'm going to finish 8th this season. And now, granted, a big part of that is because I've been very vocal, and I just gave up on the season because I recognized that the quality of the engine was not there, that it was not done well. The decisions were not good. And so I just said, F it. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to spend more money on this when you keep doing this. Because you come from the last 2 seasons of, while you may not have liked the dribble wide and cross meta that we had, it also led to 2 of the most entertaining seasons we've all ever had in MFL. And now you've gone back to an old formation, old setup with poor defensive logic that has now made nothing fun. I mean, it's just the game is no longer fun to me. And obviously fun is associated with winning. And when you do that, and when the one time you give a CB a red card, it's in the 15th minute against Ronan, like, that's fun, right? Like, the one time your programming actually works, and then my right mid has 15 yellow cards this season with like 3 reds, and I even have him on like balanced aggression. Like he doesn't even like push or do anything anymore. That's a problem in the coding, and that is on the team. And so my issues lie with the team's decision making. And so, it is what it is. I gave up on this season, and I know there's a lot of other people that gave up on the season too. And I don't have hope that they're going to be able to figure things out for next season either, because they have taken something that worked, that people were very happy with and excited about, and they blew it up, which makes no logical sense from a company perspective.
I completely understand your frustrations, and I completely agree with a lot of what you said as well. But I think that, taking, like, I've done maybe, I don't know, not loads, 20 or 30 friendlies on the experimental engine. I haven't had 1 red card yet. Yellow cards definitely are down. And it does feel like it's this season's engine with a lot of that stuff removed. Now, whether it's going to be like that, I don't know. There'll be other people that have done more testing than me. And I certainly won't do, the testing I do at this time of the season is engine testing rather than tactics testing. Tactics testing I won't do for it like until after rollover, until the engine goes final. But Sid, what are your thoughts on it from that sort of like, do you think that like the engine this season, they can sort of pull it around and put out an engine next season which is worthy of running the Diamond League?
I mean, my only ask would be for it to be tested enough, have enough, a solid sample in terms of data before it gets rolled out. Again, we are talking red cards purely, right? I think go back 3-4 seasons. I don't remember which one exactly, but when we did some preseason test games, there was a lot of red cards that were being handed over to the CDM specifically. And I think right when we transitioned into the league phase, every game, I think the CDM was getting sent off. And they did patch it right before we started the actual league phase of that season. So again, as long as there's enough data, enough validation to make sure whatever they're trying to put out is working effectively, I'm all for that. And again, a little bit of transparency up front as well. If they just come out and say, hey guys, season 11, we were targeting 3.75 yellow cards. It got shot up to 4.25. We're trying to tone it back to 3.75. So don't be surprised if you're getting 3 bookings or 4 bookings per game. Completely fine. Understood. And again, the red card logic, that definitely needs to be looked into. Specifically, the second yellow card for a player who's already been booked. So the frequency of that definitely needs to go down. So if these come out as part of the preseason patch notes before everything goes live, that'll be great. At least people know what to expect, and everyone can fine-tune their tactics to adjust to the engine expectations.
It's funny, isn't it? Because when the mid-season report came out as well, I looked at it and I thought, okay, no centre players across, throughout the spine of the team are getting many yellow cards and certainly not that many red cards. So I just put them all on aggressive in all my teams, and I don't think I've had 1 red card on any of them since then. But as Bob said, and Bob, I think, has just been, particularly unlucky with this anyway. Like the 1 red that a centre back did get was in his game against Ronan, like the worst possible game at the worst possible time. But it's unbelievable. But Kev, any thoughts on sort of like, the transition from season 11 engine to season 12's engine in terms of that? Have you done much testing? Not necessarily tactics testing, but just looking at the new engine.
Yeah, new engine looks really good. There's a very clear crossing long shot meta already. I wonder if that will get patched or changed. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Have you seen that, David?
I have seen quite a few long goals, but I have seen sort of a variety of goals as well. It hasn't been just sort of an exclusive.
Yeah, there's been a nice variety, but there's crossing from sort of right back, left backs straight to the striker. The striker will shoot from 30 yards and it goes in.
I've noticed that. I do wonder, because I think crossing on fullbacks has been pretty good this season. On definitely on certain
Mhm.
things. That's another thing I sort of implemented mid-season, and I do
But
want
yeah,
to
every game,
roll over. But
every experimental game I've played, there's been 2 of those goals in every game. So yeah, a funny one. But yeah, there's a nice variety as well. And yeah, as Ricky says in chat, as you said, the cards are definitely down, which is important. But I have to share Bob's frustration there. I mean, why wasn't it tested? Why was it rolled out as it was? Because it's had a huge impact this season. So
well, we had Bastisse on, didn't we? Was it? I can't remember. Was it last week or the week before when he came on and spoke about the mid-season report? And I think that in terms of like testing visually the engine, it's quite difficult for the team. Even if there was 100 people on the team, it would be quite difficult to doing it. But I think that they can run simulations of 100 matches, maybe 1,000 matches, and surely they would have seen there was more yellow cards and red cards that were coming out at that point anyway. I don't know what kind of data the reports they chuck out when they're running these sort of tests, but and that is one of the reasons why I think that this season they've like put the onus back on the community. Look, test the matches, start early, but it's so difficult trying to get that information because people don't want to spend time testing on new engines until that new engine's in there, especially when they're in title or relegation fights. They want to spend time on the current engine. So it is quite difficult from that point of view.
yeah, that's definitely my case at the moment. I'm too busy sort of preparing for the rest of this season to test the new one. Plus, it'll change again anyway. So, but yeah, I do like what they're implementing. I like that they're getting the community involved. I like that they addressed all the defensive AI issues. The cards look to be down. As long as that stays to be the case, yeah, all good so far with the experimental.
I mean,
I just hope that is the case. Sorry.
I was going to say, at the moment, it looks like a great engine, and people need to, if you watch the stream, if you listen back afterwards, get testing. Just run a few friendlies, see what you think of the engine. If you spot something that's weird or hanky, send a ticket in. You might win some MFL from it, a bit of extra MFL. But we need to do this to sort of like get the feedback to the team so the engine is better for next season. Because at the end of the next season, I want to be sitting here with a Bob that's smiling and happy. And other people. And I know that, I guess, Bob, what would make you happy right now going into next season?
I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. I like the fact I have been testing a bit. I like the fact that the cards have been down, have decreased a bit. I think that has been really my biggest gripe with what's going on, because like I said, it all compounds on each other, and not understanding how it compounds on each other is the issue. I mean, I believe that the game needs more testing, but simultaneously, I think that testing at different levels is more important than we might imagine, because the results that you're going to get in gold versus the results that I'm going to get in stone versus the results that Sid and I and Kev are going to get in diamond are vastly different. I believe them to be vastly different than what we do. So when you make an engine to make everybody happy, there are always going to be people unhappy. When you try to make the middle of the road engine, there's always going to be problems. And you see those problems at the very far edges of the bell curve, right? And so that's what you see them in diamond, right? And so in my eyes, I build the engine around diamond, and I have everybody else adjust to diamond and platinum, because you can adjust up if you have the ability, because it's not financially restrictive to make adjustments when you're in Spark and Flat. Whereas it is in diamond, and there's just no cards available. So I like fewer cards. I want to see that a lot more. I need to figure out what the hell broke with Beckman, because he's just not scoring anymore, which is one of my things. Like, my goal tally went down so significantly that I don't feel comfortable using my wingers because my strikers are short, right? So they're not crossing kind of wingers. They are fast, pacey wingers that get to the byline and cut back with direct passes. So my build in general doesn't work very well in this engine. at all. And it won't work next season either, because I have a lot of my main guys retiring. And so now I have no interest in spending money, and I'm not going to be loaning people out because there's no sense in me doing that if I'm just going to finish 5th or 6th or 7th because of what's going on. So as far as I would care about, you need to really rebalance and fix the wingers and the wide mids and the fullbacks. You need to reduce their red cards. You need to reduce their yellow cards. You need to give them more freedom to do what they have been doing in the past. You have to not nerf wide attacks. You have to make it more balanced across the sheet instead of being it one way to play. And sadly, I don't think that happens. We were actually overreacting. And the thing is, like, I can handle this engine being shit if it is consistently shit. Meaning that don't change it again like you did after 2 successful years. Like, if this is going to be your shit base, make it an average base and slowly work your way up, right? So we know that our expectations are extraordinarily low. So we don't spend money because, I mean, at the moment, I'm so displeased with the decision-making process that the team made. It makes no logical sense to me and for anyone that wants to make money. So that's my fundamental issue, David. And like I said, short of making it an overall balanced game instead of forcing narrow, forcing wide, and I think this is where the last engine suffered as well. It forced wide and neglected narrow, whereas this one forces narrow and neglects wide.
Do you think it's possible to have a perfect engine?
What's up?
Do you think it's possible to have a perfect engine?
No, but I think it's possible to have a considerably better engine than this. I think the engine from the last 4 seasons have been better than this. And people talk about the differences in diversity of goals. That's fantastic, right? I'm happy about that. That's awesome. Simultaneously, you need balance in general because we're still getting those cut-in, short passes inside the 6 type of goals, David, but they are not the same type of goals. They are your right center mid and your left center mid have pushed up into just inside the box, then crossed over to your cam or your striker who is in there instead of your wingers attacking through. So the numbers are still going to look similar, but there's a massive difference between who's doing it. And I think those are the things that the stats don't necessarily tell you. They don't tell you that these passes are coming from your wingers versus your center mids and whomever. They're just telling you that, passes inside the 6 box creating goals are about the same. That's great from a numbers perspective, but that's not how this actually works. And I think that's one of the things that every programmer in the world, I mean, we see this in other games too. If you don't really play it as much, you don't see it as much, and the level that you play it on makes things different. Now, at stone level, David, my wingers are still taking advantage and doing fun stuff because they're faster, right? That's not the case when everybody is equal. And so that's where I'm having a problem. I mean, it feels like the engine is just not going to work for me in general this season. I mean, Beckman just refuses to score goals. Like, he's on low shooting, less long shots, and dude is taking 40-yard bombs for no apparent reason. He's just like Dirk-a-dur. And then, it's just whatever. What can you do? And that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, my gallery is built around wingers. I know there's a lot of other galleries that are built around wingers. Dio has figured it out, but Dio...
my gallery is built around wingers. Every single team.
Have tall guys, tall strikers. That's not what I have, so I can't play that game, which means that I have wasted money and I don't have the tools to do what I need. So that's kind of sad, but I mean, I have a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow that I'm just probably going to run next season and bash my head with it narrow as usual and do the inside passing because I have the guys. So I'm going to keep playing because I can't get out is really what it comes down to, David.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to speak like this, but I completely understand why. It is what it is at this point in the season. I think we just need to hope that the engine next season is a little bit more balanced and sort of wingers and other positions. Because I've noticed this as well, especially in gold, like the striker you loaned me should have smashed this season. You know, admittedly, I had some lower sort of rated players around him, you know, and I probably underestimated how strong I needed to be in gold to do relatively well. That's on me. But even so, the striker has just been like grim this season. Like, and I don't understand why. And the only difference between another striker, the backup I have to him, is that he has a lower physical, and the other guy I have is a lot taller. Now, they say height doesn't matter in the game. I think it has some impact, and it definitely has been shown this season with that. My only hope is that next season that's changed. And as I said, my early impressions of next season, and I've done well this season, so it's not sour grapes from me. You know, I've had I won all 4 cups today. I've won 7 leagues so far, and there's still more that I'm playing for tomorrow. So I've had a good season, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I have noticed certain sort of weird stuff.
Yeah, and let's be honest. If I'm not playing in Diamond, if I didn't win last season, and I didn't have such a good team in Diamond, I wouldn't be bitching as much. Being completely honest with you. If my highest team was silver, I wouldn't be complaining. I'd be playing my game the way that I play my game. But I see it more because there are different expectations. Like Beckman scored 14 goals this year. Last year, he scored 29.
Yeah.
Beckman didn't just get bad. I didn't just forget how to play the game. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't adjust well enough, and that part's on me, right? And it's just, my thing in general is, so I'll do this for another season, but are they going to just throw out the engine again and start fresh? Because at some point you just need consistency. And like, while I may not like the base that they decided to go to, if they keep it the base, you can start working with that. But, you know, and what that means is, you know, we start looking for center mids. We get rid of our wingers. We try to sell our wingers and our wide mids because they aren't as good. And that's part of the thought process in general, because I had fun at the lower levels, David. I had a lot of fun.
For me, I think wingers work. Yes, they got far too many yellows this season, and half the time my best ones were suspended. You know, I got them to work on most teams. However, you're right. In like Diamond, you can't sort of, you know, you have to base team around certain players. I could pivot to different formations with the other teams and different tactics.
Yeah.
You can't do that if you're narrow. Like what you've got your team. It's expensive.
Well, and I made my wingers work at other levels because I had 6'2" strikers, so I could turn on crossing. I wasn't reliant like I am in Diamond on speed to get down the wings and low driving crosses. That's what I'm reliant upon in Diamond. And so I had 2 seasons of that because Beckman is 5'6". Like, I'm not even that short. McLeod is 5'6". Like, these guys aren't big, right? So they don't score. And what's funny is my tallest striker is 5'11", Turto. He won the Golden Boot in Titans. He scored more goals in like 7 games of Titans than Beckman has scored the entire season. So height matters. And the different way that the ball is getting in actually matters. So those low driving crosses, they just don't work anymore. And when I was looking at some of the work that Hamas did, my biggest chance creators, guys that create the most chances, are Ledich and Claire, my outside mids, my wingback Davidson, and then my wingers. Like, all of my stuff comes from the outside. So I'm set up to go wide, even if I have to force an attack narrow. And when those guys are second-handedly nerfed, there becomes a big problem for my team in general. And so, I mean, we saw it kind of today in Sid's setup too. Sid did great with his 3-4-3, but the wide mids they couldn't do much of anything in this case, and they looked bad. And this is kind of what happens. So, you know, I mean, I wish we had them back. I'm hoping that they don't get the cards. I'm hoping that the attack can be more balanced. I would love low-driven crosses to be at least feasible, because they're not anymore, you know. And we'll see what happens, because Beckman's not growing 8 inches next season before he retires.
And it's not easy to switch these pieces in diamond as well, right? I mean, yeah, in gold and silver, if someone's not working, there's always an option to go out, look for another player, taller player with higher shooting, lower pace, whatever the meta is. But with diamond, I mean, if you're splashing on a striker, you're probably set with that player for the next 5-6 seasons or more. But so this is a stark difference, right? I see with how the philosophy switched in the engine. So Ronin had 41 goals last season. This season, right now, he has 60 goals. So plus 20 on his last season's tally. So nearly a 50% increase. Bob, who's attacking wide, he had 58 goals last season. He's down to 38. So that to me tells story. Like, so it exactly moved the other way. The rest of it seems to be pretty balanced because I think people are kind of having a 50 width or a 60 width and playing balance throughout. But for me, I know Bob was attacking wide, a lot of cutbacks and crosses last season. And yeah, his productivity has gone down by 35%.
It is actually crazy how far the output of your team has dropped this season. And I know, after that you had a rubbish start, and yet by your own admission, you sort of lost interest. But even so, you've still got some of the best players in the game. You'd expect them to score more.
Exact same squad. I mean, nothing changed. Same Beckman, 99 rated, right? And even like a couple of upgrades in there as well. The exact same squad, but the productivity goes down by like nearly a third.
We've got Malta Travel in the chat. He said, one thing I noticed this season was my left winger, right winger speed was less effective than usual, and he didn't change anything from season to season. So I guess that sort of backs up, what Bob's saying. And maybe on some of my teams, the pace that the wingers have isn't necessarily the way I use them. So maybe that is one of the reasons I've managed to get stuff to work but, as I said, I just think that I look at it for this season as sort of a one-off. I've had fun this season, but then I haven't spent thousands on players and had those players get sent off and then not be able to use those players. So for me, it's been slightly different. There's definitely been frustrations from me this season, but I tried to sort of, look at the results and just hope that next season offers a little bit more balance, as Bob said. Kev, what do you think on the sort of the pace thing? Have you noticed a big difference across your teams?
Yeah, certainly in the lower levels, as Bob said. I mean, the lower levels has been loads of fun. I think Bob's having fun there as well. But in Iron, I've got two strikers that are 92 and 96 pace, and they're a way to win the league, So at Iron, 90 plus pace is just elite. That's an incredible. That's what you want in that sort of level to dominate. But I haven't, as you know, my agency isn't built on wingers, so I haven't really been using them. But when I have used them in Diamond, it's been a massive fail. And it's tactics that I know that work, the work in testing, the work in Diamond testing as well. They have Ramble. Remember the Ramble were top mid-season, projected bottom, exact same tactics, and they were top of that Silver League. Running 4-3-3 attack all season. So all these issues that we're experiencing, not only are they finer lines in Diamond, but they seem to be more accentuated as well at that level. I'm not seeing these same issues further down.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I know that, I speak to you guys, definitely to you, Kev, quite a bit. And, I always try and put a positive spin on it. The engine's fine. We just got to work with what you got. But then I'm not experiencing the same problems that you guys are experiencing, in the higher league. And it is quite difficult, from that point of view. But for me, this season, the engine, it certainly hasn't been great. The red and yellow cards wound me up, especially early on, until I sort of, changed some settings. But I think that, if going forward, they can change that and offer a little bit more balance so that, all formations, in my mind, all formations should work providing you get the settings right, whether you're using wingers, whether you're going narrow, and they should all be capable of beating each other. If I'm going deep and I'm going direct, but the person's pressed up high, that you're much likely to win regardless of the formation that you're playing. But
that's where James' data is interesting. I don't know if you want to go through some of that, but I was just having a look at the cards again in Diamond. There's only one team that's had more red cards than me and Bob, and that's Ronan. He's the only guy that's had more red cards than us. And I think he won every single game. He's had a red card. So, whereas for me and I think for Bob, we've lost every game. We've had a red card. And then the subsequent games, when those players are suspended, it's had a big impact as well.
Wait, let me because Hammers has given me access now. So I'll pull it up and just show some of the data because it looks a bit smoother on the screen if I pull it up.
Yeah, he's done a lot of good work there.
Hammers, you don't mind me showing this to you before I put it live, because obviously the data I know is sort of been exclusively to try and help the guys that are on this stream.
I think Hammers will agree that it's probably late enough in the season where we can share it.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. I'm sure he won't mind. But right, let me just fiddle that around, make us a little bit smaller. Oh, yeah. Let's put us up in the corner. Window capture. Here we go. Okay, so Hammers has done this report, and as I'm sure a lot of people know, that Hammers does data for some of the guys in Diamond. I think it started a couple of seasons ago with him watching a couple of games, and then suddenly he was watching loads of games, and then I can't remember who mentioned it, or whether maybe it was us that mentioned it on the stream, that a lot of people were doing stuff. The data was there and he was tracking it. So I thought it'd be interesting to sort of have a quick look through some of this. So it's just a stat sheet from data that he's pulled from watching every single game, from working out where they came from. So we've got the start of the season projections for the best 16. Ronan was predicted top, Bob second, although they were both on exactly the same in terms of top overall. And then we've got the table of where everyone finished. This is the prediction at the start of the season where everybody was. La Furia Española were predicted a little bit higher than I thought, actually. I thought they were predicted lower than that. But you did have some decent players, didn't you? Kev? Can you hear me, Kev?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. I was having a look at the report at the same time. There isn't much in it, though. I'm projected 8th. But if you look at the teams just below me, there isn't much in that. That's my justification, anyway.
I think it's Diamond, isn't it? Like, everybody's quite close if you look at it. 96 being the top.
Exactly.
Go down to BFC Barcelona. There's only 4.5 point gap between the top 11 teams, which is fairly crazy, really, because it's nothing like that in other leagues, is it?
But then when I look at Max Grey Ninja, he's had an incredible season. He's really punched above his weight and he's done phenomenal. But he's also had half the cards that I've had. So things like that, I think he's maybe had a little bit more luck in certain games. And fair enough, it happens. I've had that sort of luck in other leagues. It just hasn't came together there for me. But no, Max he's brilliant in the game anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, is there data in here for the manager?
The cards are lower down. Yeah, we'll get to that.
There's a lot of sort of meaty data in here in terms of sort of like what worked against, what. But what I was interested to see, if we look at some of Bob's results, and does it show the losses? Does it show the red cards within this sector? No, it's further down, isn't it?
I think it's further down. Yeah, I think you can tell I'm a little bit salty at the Diamond season.
And yet you can still survive with a win tomorrow.
Well, yeah, let's see. Fingers crossed. But yeah, just hasn't worked for me. Bob's the same. Bob's
been a busy boy.
He is. Phenomenal amount of work he's putting at this. But yeah, I think Bob's the only one that's been unluckier than me in Diamond.
Aggression stats. So Ronan, 5 red cards plus 38 yellow cards. The interesting thing about Ronan is, and I haven't watched every single one of his games, But a lot of the red cards he got were at times when it didn't matter. He was either already up or it was, and when you got the red cards really made a massive difference this season. But in fact, Ronan had more red cards than Bob. Bob had 4 red cards during the season, which is still quite high for like a 22 game season. But like Bob, like the one you got against Ronan particularly, what was that? Like 7 minutes in, it was your centre back.
Yeah, I think that I've had at least 2 red cards in the first half, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And so in Diamond, that's has a pretty big, in any match that has a really big impact. And like I said, it's not that I'm playing aggressive. I don't play on more aggressive, because I'm trying to stop it. But evidently my guys are just dicks and bullies, and they like to punch people in the face and kick people in the shins. So
I think Big Will said earlier, he says even on balance, there's more red cards than there is on more aggressive. That's how he's finding it as well. So, yeah,
I don't think I've played more aggressive like the last couple matches. I don't think I picked up a red card. I picked up a bunch of yellow cards, but
as David said, he set his whole spine of his team to more aggressive, and he's had no cards. It's clearly just an engine problem all around. But they've admitted that. MFL know that. They're aware of it, and I'm confident they'll fix it.
I mean, I'm not sure. Like the team have given us this engine. Yes, they made some patches. They wanted to increase yellows. But I think at the end of the day, they realised their mistake, sort of, especially when they're doing the mid-season report in terms of like overshooting the numbers. And, I just have to hope that next season's engine in terms of the red and yellow cards is a little bit lower, because if it's the same as this season, it's just going to be ultimately very frustrating. And it's very frustrating for it's obviously frustrating for Bob, but it's incredibly frustrating for viewers as well. Like I love watching sort of the Diamond games, since Bob and Sid got there, and I don't want to watch Bob get a red card in the 7th minute. Yes, that might happen again next season, but not have so many that it just completely buggers the results of the season.
I think
that's part of the thing, right, David? If we notice how intense the last couple seasons have been, not counting this one, but how much viewership and focus has been on Diamond. Diamond, people were actually excited about it that didn't play in Diamond. This season has come around and it's back to normal again, meaning Ronan's team is godlike. But there are, as I was saying to Laird, and Laird mentioned on When Dirk, the ways to attack Ronan don't exist in the same ways that they used to. So now it's harder to play with him. And I can't play wide, and Sid can't play wide. And so our teams are built in such a way that it's very difficult to counter Ronan. And so as a result, it's amazing what Ronan has done this season. Don't get me wrong. It's so hard to go and play as well as he has. But simultaneously, it makes sense, right? Like it makes sense when the wide attacks are kind of nerfed a little bit, accidentally, purposefully, whatever it may be, that this is the obvious end result of what would happen there. And I think that one of the things that we've seen from year to season is that there aren't subtle changes made. Their changes are pretty large. It's either attacking wide is the meta play or it absolutely sucks. Attacking narrow is the meta play or it absolutely sucks. It shouldn't really be that way, in my eyes at least.
No, I completely agree. I think that there should be, whatever formation you line up, there should be a way for you to try and play that formation to win games. And I think that Ronan, yes, he's got one of the best squads in the league and he may have won it regardless. He's a good manager and he's got, great players, but he also lucked into the fact that the narrow formation meant that he was going to pick up less red and yellow cards across the season. And yes, he's got red cards still on some of his players, but they've come at the absolute, best time for him. What were we going to say? Yeah, Hammers said here, yellow cards up to match day 21 last season were matched by match day 16 this season. And again, why that's important? Because players are bloody expensive in Diamond. If your player's getting suspended for 5 yellows, and some of my guys, I think Bobby said one of you guys had 16 yellows. That's 3 suspensions. That's 3 games missed during the season. That's like, we're only playing on 22 game seasons. If you're having those and you can't, even if you had endless pot of money, trying to buy replacements for that is tough because there's not that many of those players around.
Yep. Well, and next season he's retiring. So, I mean, at the current rate he's clicking, he will just be able to serve as red card suspensions every time he needs a rest. So that's fantastic.
I think, well, that's the biggest thing for me as well. It's how unfair it feels for me and Bob, because all 4 of my red cards have cost me all 4 of those games, and then they've cost me the subsequent games after that. I think Bob's the same. Whereas with Ronan's 5 cards, I think he's won every game. You know, he certainly hasn't dropped any crazy points. He hasn't lost any of those games.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be fair.
It just
let's be fair though. Like Ronan's team is built to absorb that. Ronan's team is so deep, and my team is relatively deep too. I can't really complain too much that my center mids are getting red cards when I'm replacing one 96 center mid with another 96 center mid, right? Like we can't complain that too much for me, at least. Me, Ronan, like Sid, were kind of the exception to that part of, whereas it drastically affects UCAV. It drastically affects GTA and the rest of the league as it goes through. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I just sucked this year, right? And I couldn't adjust because I couldn't do well with crossing, and for a number of reasons and a number of other things. But I wasn't good enough this season. And so I'm finishing where I should finish without being able to make the changes. So.
Yeah, no, I would agree for my performance as well. It just hasn't been good enough. But I'm just trying to just talk out the bad points I've seen in terms of the bad variants, the bad red cards, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's obviously been a poor first season for me in Diamond as well. Big Will, he's just saying Ronan lost his last game with a red. But that's fine when you're 18 points clear, though, isn't it? It's no big deal at that stage.
But yeah, I mean, but it still goes to the point, though. Like, if you're getting a red because of accumulated yellows, and this goes back to what Sid said, one of the more basic things that they could do on the programming side is, instead of increasing the likelihood of you getting a second yellow, it's drastically decreased. Like, we see it in professional football matches. The official is a lot less likely to pull the second yellow, understanding that there are consequences to the game. And so however you program that in, you send the chance of picking up a yellow card from 2% down to 0.5%, or whatever it may be, but you make it so that you can give that first yellow card. It doesn't mean that you're automatically going to get thrown out of the match, because if somebody's getting a yellow card in the first 10 minutes from me, I know they are gone. Very quickly. And so I think that's one of the fixes that would help there. And I think that would also decrease the number of yellow cards and red cards that we see. So,
but then I've had a few red cards.
That's Sid's idea.
I've had a few red cards lower down the pyramid, but hardly any of those have affected games. And it's not a big deal at that level, but it's just massive at Diamond. A red card kills your game, kills your next 2 games or your next game. So.
Yeah, I mean,
well, for me, as you said, for me, anyway.
I mean,
and Andrew Q has an interesting point.
Honestly, that match with Ronan, though, I was already getting killed.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah. Andrew.
Yeah, we got you.
Interesting point, right? So he's asking if Ronan had the same gripe about seasons 9 and 10 with how strong playing wide was, and 4-1, 2-1-2 narrow was kind of underwhelming. I think that's the whole point. I mean, we are looking at a bell curve and we are switching from one outlier to the other, right? It's a complete switch from one extreme to the next. And that's what we don't want to see. Because if you're building teams, you're not building or buying players for just one season. You're buying players keeping in mind that they're going to serve you for 5, 6 or more seasons. So if you're building with a base that has wingers or narrow mids, you want both the setups to work, provided you're countering your opponent with the right kind of tactics, right? The whole power switch cannot be the crosses work one season and it completely dies off the next. So that's kind of the point I think we're trying to make.
And do you think it's possible?
So yeah, and I can tell you.
Sorry, you go on, Bob.
No, I can tell you that to answer Andrew's question, Ronan was frustrated. It just in our conversations because of those reasons. Like, and what's crazy is his team was still so good; it was beating people. Like that's how strong. Like we forget. Like just because engine changes have happened are not the direct results. The reason why Ronan won this thing. Like Ronan won this because he has the best team and he's one of the best managers in the game, right? The changes made it so that Sid and I weren't able to be competitive. That's really what it comes down to. Even though Sid is going to finish second, Sid has grinded his way all the way there. And so the three of us set up to be able to attack with wingers, to be able to attack with wide mids. They all kind of sucked, you know? And so when that happens, you can't, it's hard to make adjustments. So.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Meta Mercenary squad now, and he's only got 18 players in there, which is probably a bit dicey for this season. But he's got away with it, and
quite a few loans as well. Quite a few loans.
Yeah, but it isn't just an incredible squad. Like you look at the back.
That right back, Ben. That right back, as James just said, he's insane. Everything seems to go through him as well.
That's his prime creator.
Well, and yep. And that's the way Ronan plays and attacks, which is fantastic. Like in that works great in a crossing narrow meta. Works fantastic. Not as great in a speed meta down the wing. So, to each their own as it comes through there. I mean, I remember in my first season in Diamond, I actually set up my fullbacks the same way that Ronan did. And I used crosses. I used my fullbacks to generate a lot of offense. And I didn't do that in season 10 and season 11 because it wasn't as required. You can use pace down the sides in good passing. So there's a give and take with all this stuff.
And your concerns over this sort of stuff, have you fed it back into the team?
I think Bob has.
No, I'm kind of being a bitch about it. I've been whining and complaining. And so honestly, the team should probably not be listening to my rants. I'm frustrated, right? So I'm making more lucid points now, but I can also be very snarky and I'm being very difficult to get along with when it comes to interactions, which is really not fair to Lucas and the team. They're doing the best that they can. And I understand where they're coming from. Just because I'm unhappy doesn't mean that I should be as frustrated and as crummy as I am. But I mean, they get it. They understand fundamentally where some of the issues are. It's just a question of how much will it be adjusted, and I think that you asked me before, what are some of the things that would make me happier? Reducing the probability of getting a second yellow in a game. Like that is one of the key things that have ruined the play experience for me this season, making it so that the wide guys are less nerfed as well, meaning spread out the attack a little bit more. Don't make it as narrow, make it a little bit more wide. Like those are the two things, David. And I think that the team has probably heard that, and if it's crossing that we need to do, then I will throw crosses to my 5'6" stud with 99 physicality. So, whichever head he hits it with, he hits it with.
I think that as well, if you look to... Sorry, I completely forgot what I was going to say then.
Well, I was going to say, I've got full confidence that they'll get it right. And I think next season will be way, way better. So, yeah, I believe in the team.
Yeah, I completely believe in the team as well. But, sorry, I know what I was going to say. So Shadow Plays in the chat said, I wonder, does MFL need to change the engine every year? I don't they kept one engine for 2 years while they were working on this stuff. I don't think they want to change the engine every year. I think they want to have an engine that sort of maybe they can make tweaks to. And I think that this season, obviously with the defensive, the problems with the defense, they realized fairly quickly that they were going to have to make changes for next season. And then obviously with the number of yellow cards, all of these sort of things packaged together meant they needed to make changes for the new engine for upcoming season 12. But I think parts of the engine are still the same. I just think that hopefully the changes they make with the defensive AI and everything do lead to more balance with the team, because we don't want like just narrow formations to be good or wide formations, because that's okay lower down, because lower down you can go and buy an uncommon player to fill a gap for 10 quid. But up top in the Diamond League, if you want to do a deal like that because certain things working, it means that you need to go out and spend $2,000. And as Sid said a while ago as well, you're buying players for a few seasons. You're not buying players for one season, and it's difficult to move in and out of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I think that.
And I think
Go on.
that statement right there, David, from that statement about do they need to change it every season is my biggest gripe. You have something that seemed to be working okay. Why not keep that as your base instead of just completely wiping things out? Which is what it feels like. And so I could tell you, just when you look at it, if you look at the last, so season 10 and season 11, goals were slightly lower scored than they were this season, which means that the game was functioning in a much more balanced way. And defense wasn't nearly as bad. And the stat that I can look to is directly, if you look at Seoul, so in season 10, they gave up 18 goals in league. In season 11, when I won the league, or whatever it was, season 9, they gave up 18. In season 10, they gave up 20. So 38 goals total in 2 seasons, David. This season, Seoul has given up 37 goals. 37. I cannot explain to you how literally impossible that is, to go from being like how badly the defense is functioning in that form and how badly I adjusted to things for that to be the case. Like that should never happen under any circumstances, because you said it before, David, like the players are really good. It's not like I brought in worse players to play in here. The players are very, very good. And so to go from one extreme to another, those are the things that make me concerned as a user about why we're changing the engine. And we no longer have something that is reproducible and repeatable and like at all in any way, shape, or form. And so this is seen in the variability, and I hate the word variance. I think variance is a swear word. When variance in my eyes, like, oh, it's just variance in the engine. Like, no, that's actually bad decision making and bad setup in the engine is what caused that. And you can't just blame everything on variance. Right?
Like, variance might account to a lot.
Variance is that you want to scratch off tickets. You know, like you want to scratch off in your Christmas lottery tickets. Congratulations, that's variance. It's not variance when the same bad mistakes happen over and over and over and over again, and they're giving feedback on these things. Like, oh no, it's a visual bug. Like, no, it's not. So like that's where my frustration lies, the decision making, and why they didn't just keep building on the engine that they had, where things were tight, where things were close, to slightly reduce by 0.0001% the effectiveness of low crosses, and make it slightly less wide, instead of what they did. Like, and so those are the things from a programming perspective, like why?
Yeah, it's quite difficult for, without knowing how they build the engine, to know how they can make changes to give that balance to the game. And I'm certainly not a coder, and the guys working at MFL are, very intelligent and know their field. But, all we ask is they just give us a balanced engine. And as I've said several times, I haven't got a problem with this engine. My problem was with the number of cards. Every season for me, the engine is a puzzle to fix. But for me, it's a bit easier. One, I'm playing at lower stakes. 2, if I need to get a player in because my formation doesn't work, it's cheaper for me to go in and do it. And for the Diamond guys, it isn't.
That's what I said to you earlier, though, David, in the last show. I kind of see this engine in 2 ways. I didn't have a problem with it tactically or figuring it out. That's all good. but you need to do that on a solid base, you know. But the red cards, the goalkeeper problems, the defensive AI, all these issues we're experiencing, it dilutes all the good tactical work and all the prep that you've done. You know, and even more so at Diamond, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting next season when we sort of, hopefully I'll have, more of a play around with it this week and, do proper testing when I build my rosters next season, when the engine goes final. But the early impressions from everybody I speak to from looking at it is that the engine is a lot better. It feels more balanced. There's definitely less yellow cards, and let's just hope that that's the case.
Are we going to see a lot more lobbed goals next season? Hopefully that doesn't turn out to be an issue.
I have to. It's funny. Someone ran a friendly the other day, and they sent the goal to because it looked. They said, "Oh, look, it's gone straight through the goalkeeper." And I looked at it, and I thought, "Hang on, the ball's gone up. You can see because it gets bigger. He has lobbed the goalkeeper, so he isn't like there's nothing the goalkeeper could do there." But
now I wonder if any specific type of striker is going to be meta for that. Is it going to be one with high finishing, high pace, tall? It's just a puzzle to be solved. I mean, yeah, the only thing is looking at a bell curve, just don't switch things too much. Snake made a good point as well, right? The team overuses the term variance. Variance needs to be outliers. Variance cannot be norm. Variance cannot be every 2 games, right? Variance should be every 10 games or every 20 games. Comparing the sample size you look at, every game cannot be a 50-50 kind of variance. So variance needs to be true variance. It cannot be a norm.
On the flip side of that, I do think people complain too much about the sort of results. The amount of time you'll go in, you'll see someone get a rough result and they're going to take straight away to Discord, and it was just, without wanting to use the V word, it is the V word in some cases, and all of the noise around like, oh, I lost this game, but I had 1.2 XG and he had 0.2 XG, but I lost 4-0. It's like that sort of stuff happens in real life. You need to get over it and move on. It's the stuff that we're talking about here is fundamental issues with the engine that every position, every formation should work, providing you've got the right team instructions or player instructions in. It doesn't mean that everything has to be OP, but you can't have certain formations that are 100% guaranteed to do well against other people in an engine. And, there needs to be that balance, as, Bob has spoken about, as Sid has spoken about. I think...
And David, the variance stuff, like the reason that I said that I basically gave up is because all of the work that I put in, it no longer became worth it to put that work in when I knew that no matter what happened, it's just a random coin flip of, is he going to score a 0.03 goal as he's dribbling 40 yards away with man marking on him and kick it right through my goalkeeper for a goal? Like, this is why it becomes a bit demoralizing the higher you go, when it doesn't really matter how good your team is or how well you're set up. If it's just a coin flip, no one cares. There's no actual logic to it. And those are the things that make it a little bit more difficult to want to spend more money, to want to stay involved with it. So those are tough things, but that's part of life too, right? Like, just because it doesn't impact me when that happens at my Stone team doesn't mean that there aren't a number of users where that is the most important team that they have, and it's really important. And I recognize how important that is, which is why
exactly.
Like, issues throughout the whole piece are important. Like, you can't just focus on one thing. It doesn't matter what you spent on something. Like, everything is relative, and like what's important to you is important to you, right? And so I think that is the thing. I mean, it's just that V word. I don't think it's right. I think Snake is absolutely correct. I mean, I even said it myself, and I just think that there are things that need to be fixed. And I think that we've done a decent job of identifying a number of those things that could make life a lot better going into next season and lead to a more stable version of the engine, because there has to be some sort of midpoint where wingers don't have to just cross the ball into the middle. They can still hit low driving crosses where it's not just CMs dribbling people and physically abusing people with small tap passes to great strikers. Like there has to be a little bit more than that goes on there. So.
It's going to be interesting sort of looking at next season and trying to work out, what works, and hopefully a variety of things work. But yeah, it is quite difficult from that point of view.
I love that side of it though. The puzzle, the start of the season, the excitement, the new engine. I love all that. But yeah, so far I'm encouraged by the experimental. So it looks good.
I do think that, like, as you said, like, the puzzles has to be solved. But if we hadn't had all of the red cards and the yellows, then what wouldn't have been quite so disheartening for certain managers. And I'm not just talking about Diamond here, and we are focusing on Diamond because I've got 3 Diamond managers sitting in front of me. But as Bob said a second ago, if your highest team is Stone, and you've had these issues as well, it affects you equally as much. But that's the reason we're speaking about Diamond anyway. But yeah.
I don't know about everyone else, but I've hardly seen any of these issues lower down the pyramid. I mean, yeah, maybe other managers have, if they've got more onus on that team, as Bob said. If your best team is in Stone or in Iron, maybe you are seeing those issues. But I just haven't. I haven't seen any problems with any other team. It's all been okay, and that's why I said, tactically the engine seems okay. If you get good variants, or whatever you want to call it, we don't need to use the V word around here, but but if you get the good luck in the cards stay away, it's actually quite enjoyable. I'm having a brilliant season out with Diamond, and yeah, that alone's a mystery to me, to be honest.
I think that the only thing that I noticed this fairly early on in the season. I thought it's because I had my wingers on a high dribbling, rather than sort of crossing or whatever, or risky passing. But the strikers have just been woeful. Like Beckman obviously has been bad. A last striker that Bob loaned me in my gold side has been woeful. But I've seen that throughout in a lot of my teams, that certain strikers, for whatever reason, have just been woeful. And that's not just in teams where I've got a balanced team within a division or a worse team in terms of overall. But in teams where I've been dominating, the strikers still haven't done well. It's actually the wingers that have been scoring the goals or other positions. But it's been quite weird from that point of view.
Well, I could give away my secret that I told you a while ago. The key for me was removing individual instructions. And the strikers have been banging ever since for me.
Yeah, you did say that. I did try it, and, it worked with some of the teams. But I don't know what it is. I just can't get it to work with some of the players. But the
David, that's a good point.
Sorry, go on.
It's a really good point. The wingers, like Beckman's not scoring. Beckman is getting the ball in the middle, and he's just coming nowhere close to the goal. But my wingers are scoring from outside the box. Like they're hitting missiles in there for long goals, which doesn't make sense. But I mean, I see like what's going on. It's the strikers. I agree with you. I've seen a considerably lower amount of goals coming from them, especially at the higher up. But again, I think it's partly how the goals are being created, and I'm not creating the goals the right way. So this just may be user error on my part in not adjusting to it. And I'm trying to figure out now in the test engine what to do. Like, who do I use? How do I do this? Is it really height that matters too? And that's a question for you guys. Do we really think it's height that matters for our strikers when it comes to headers and crosses, or is it physical that matters?
I think it's physical that matters.
Physical.
And obviously the difference with Diamond is that Beckman may have 99 physical, but so have all the bloody defenders that are marking as well. So he's not getting that advantage. Whereas in the lower divisions, if you've got a high physical striker, I've noticed that he does do well in the division that he's in. But
although I don't know, maybe there's a hidden stat there as well, because
Malteni. Oh, no, it's not there. Where's the tinfoil?
Yeah, let's get the tinfoil out. But Malteni, who's got 79 physical and he's 5'9", scores every cross in every corner. So
weird, isn't it? Yeah.
What's that all about?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
But I think it's a hidden stat. Prime.
I strongly feel the same, Kev. I mean, I'm not sure about that exact one, but I do feel there are hidden attributes.
Yeah.
Again, maybe not a good example picking on Bob here, right? So his right mid, Letic, has 14, 15 yellow cards, a few reds as well.
Super
So,
aggressive.
yeah, I definitely feel there is an attribute of some players being more aggressive than the others. And I believe that's the same thing with this center back as well. I believe Douglas Gerrard, he was a card magnet. The team instructions are the same. It's not like every single winger or wide mid is attacking the same player over and over again, triggering those yellow cards. So there should definitely be a hidden, again, attribute stat or whatever that you call it. It could be the same for the other positions as well. Like in FIFA, you have finishing, shooting, whatever. There are like 2 or 3 different attributes which combines to form one master stat. So again, I mean, it's tin foil. There's no relevant data available for us to go by, unfortunately. But yeah, I think the only thing you can do is look at your 3-4 games at the start of the season, see if there is a trend of sorts, and adjust or set up the instructions accordingly.
Sell the player if he's a crazy so and so.
Yeah, it is. Like, I hope
with the
hopefully they don't rebalance it the other way, so that next season all of the centre mids, centre backs, and CDMs and strikers get yellow card. Hopefully they adjust it so it's balanced across the whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, defenders and CDMs have to be prone to higher bookings than the wider mids and strikers.
Yeah.
And that's what they said they were trying to achieve, but it just didn't work out that way. So,
yeah.
But hopefully they do it this time with balance instead.
What I want to see is, you were just mentioning Gerrard there, Sid, and I have a problem with Llewellyn on my team. They're 2 of my faster, like 89, 90 pace CBs. And what I'm wondering, and I need Hamas to take a look at this, are cards higher for the faster CBs, like, and they lower for the slower CBs? Like, is there some sort of, like, I'm an idiot central defender and I'm too fast for my own good, so instead of stopping on a dime, I crash into you and I just run you over?
Or
because I get more penalties called, like, and Kev, you've experienced too with Gerrard. Like Gerrard and Llewellyn, they're both fast and they just bumble over people. Like it's bad in general. And so, like, is there a diminishing, what I'm asking is there a diminishing return on space for center backs? Like, is there a good pace and a bad pace? Like, if you're a 95 pace center back, is that bad for you?
Yeah, Gerrard's gave away, I think, 3 or 4 penalties for me in Diamond this season. So
yeah, he's an idiot.
Loves giving away a pen.
He's so stupid. That's why I gave him to you. I didn't want it. Like, see, that's what he does.
You've ruined my season, Bob.
You've ruined him doing that.
But no, I mean, well, what I was going to say there equally, though, is if you've got fast centre backs, you'd probably want to play a higher line. If you play a higher line, there's more likely they need to sprint back and get a booking, you know? So could be a variety of things, I suppose.
My line's not high. They're just dumb.
Right, so they're just dumb and just pace might be linked to it. Okay, cool.
Imagine that Yaks will come out eventually, so, but there is a hidden stat, buddy. The only hidden stat, though, is dumbness rating.
Like, I swear, like, Gerrard and Llewellyn are like the intelligence level of Cole Palmer playing defense. Like, that's literally it. Like, mentally challenged to play defense.
I completely agree with Big Wilbur in the chat as well. High line is death, even with fast defenders. I really wanted to this season run a high line. I did so much testing early on, and I was just getting destroyed. The results were inconsistent in testing. So I went back to a lower line, which is what I've used all season, and I found a lot more consistency with that. And, you know, it's a little bit like frustrating. I would love like one season to go in there and high line works. But, you know, I just think that, you know, if you're playing a lower line and someone's playing a a team and they're playing a possession game, they probably should dominate you because you're just sitting back and not doing anything. But, you know, I think that's why I think different team instructions should work against different stuff. And I know that Bastiste said that, you know, probably the safest instructions to have on all your players is balanced on everything. But where's the fun in that? People don't want to go in there and just put balance on everything. People want to go in there and try different formations, try and find the, you know, not necessarily a meta, but a meta for the certain formation that you're using. You know,
it's too vanilla, isn't it? Too vanilla, too boring. You want to put your own stamp on it. You want to play high line and keep the ball and, you know, all these exciting little nuances. But yeah, balanced all the way down the line was the report, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely moved that way.
These things have to work. At least you hope that they have to work, right? I mean, you got 80, 85 different instructions per formation. So if everything stays on balance for everyone, I mean, why do we even have those many possibilities if setting up every single formation? Again, if you're playing highline, if the opponent has faster players, then you can get punished, absolutely. But if someone's sitting deep with slower striker, then a highline should, at least on theory, on paper, should work really well. Force turnovers and score goals. So yeah, I mean that's all the setups again should be balanced and it should work against the right kind of opponent.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, you know, next season I'm backing Bob, I'm backing Sid. I want to see 1-2 at the top of the table. I think they can do it. And I think the engine, you know, there'll be enough changes in the engine. I'm backing you, Bob. I'm backing you.
I'm not.
We've got the faith in you. We've got faith in your,
100%.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we've been going for nearly an hour and a half. I know Sid has got to duck out anyway, and I still haven't had my dinner because we started a little bit earlier. But it's been great hearing from you, Bob. I know you've not been happy, but I think it's important that, you know, to vent your views and stuff like that and to talk about it, you know, and hopefully you can come back next season and have a better showing, and the engine will not just suit your agency more, but will be more balanced so it suits everybody if they're playing the right way. But
it's what the Ramble's all about. Come and vent.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the season at the end of the day, you know, Ronan earned the title. Everyone that won their leagues earned their leagues. They made the adjustments. They're playing well. This is the game that we play. We understand that the engine could be different and we have to learn it every single time. And if you don't have the cards to meet it, then that's what happens. Like it's life. Like there's not much we can do about it. I can moan and I can complain as much as humanly that I want, but being on here and just talking through some of the things that we think need to happen, at least we'll give the guys an idea of where we're coming from and what we see as some of the issues, especially at the diamond level. And like, that's where we can go, you know, and I don't know how to fix the defensive AI, but sometimes when you add too much, you get problems like this. I mean, if it's up to me, I just swap back to the defensive model that I had in season 9 and 10, because that actually worked well, you know, and then you make adjustments on the offensive side. And then all of a sudden you have things that are matching pretty well. You know, you go from being less narrow or more narrow to a little less narrow, a little more wide. And you start finding where those mixes are. And so where you can attack in those channels. And then you don't worry about ball calling logic and all those things in there, because I think that the ball calling logic with a bunch of other things have caused some issues on the back end. Yeah. And, you know, we'll figure those things out.
Let's just
hopefully over time we'll figure those things out. And part of the reason I'm also mad, David, is that Beckman put up his retirement flag. Ledich is retiring next season. So my window to win Diamond is closed now. This was my last season to win Diamond. I don't have that anymore. Well, maybe I do, because Ledich will get 5 cards before he has to actually sit anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But that's kind of where I see things right now. You know, overall, everywhere else, it's been fun. I mean, Iron's been a great season. I mean, I've had more fun playing at Ice And I care more about my ice team right now than my diamond team. And Sid won our ice league and he was dominant. And it was just fun to not know what's going to happen. And so I think that's the beauty of the game. Like, you're hearing 3 diamond managers bitch and cry over spilt milk at this point, and the rest of the game is just really fun. So
yeah, I think it's still
Totally.
the game is still great, but tweaks have to be made, and I'm sure the team realise that and are working on it for next season. We've got Ismail Dian in the chat says thoughts on a 3D match engine. Let's get the 2D match engine sorted first before we start talking about 3D. We do not want people seeing like goalkeepers making error, like conceding goals going through their body and stuff like that. Let's get the 2D match engine sorted.
100%. Let's walk before we can run, boys.
Exactly, yeah. I would love to see it one day.
Yep.
Well,
Me,
and
not
see
a
some.
priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next season anyway. I've already been, making some signings and stuff like that. Unfortunately, not the players I need at the high end. I've got 2 shots of being in gold next season. I've got one team that maybe get promoted. I've got one team that's trying to starve off relegation. So it's going to be a fun end to the season tomorrow. But I'll be back with Hoodwink. Can't remember exactly who I've got on tomorrow. Who have we got with Hoodwink tomorrow? Do you know, Kev?
Ooh. No, can't remember.
I know that Hoodwink has got someone anyway, but I will.
Yeah, I'm sure he has.
But we will be back, and then, as I said, we'll have a reward episode later on in the week. Where at the moment it's definitely me and Bruce. If it rolls over to Friday, we'll have Kev on board, and we'll be ripping packs. But I'll put out the back signal and try and find a couple of other people to join us anyway. But thanks for joining us anyway. It's always good to see your face, Bob. Great to see you as always, Sid. Congratulations. It feels a bit sort of disingenuous saying congratulations on being runner-up and finishing second in Diamond, but it's still an amazing season. Yes, you haven't got the win, but maybe next year, who knows?
Hopefully soon.
And Kev, hopefully I'll see you later in the week. If not, then we'll be doing some late rambling at some point at the start of the season, or maybe even before the season. But in the meantime, we'll be doing some testing. But
thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks everybody for joining us in the chat. I hope it didn't come across as too moany, but there's understandable frustrations, and I think it's fair that we give sort of I've generally been quite positive about the engine. I think it's important that everybody has the right to sort of like speak their mind about the engine, and let's hope that next season offers a bit more balance. But we shall be back. I'll see you tomorrow lunchtime. Bye.